Nana Shastra Vicharaneka Nipano Sahadharma Samsthapakam Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Mahanyo Sharanyakaro Radha Krishna Padaravindra Bhajana Nandena Mattalikayo Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghujugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghujugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. Hare Krishna. So this is chapter 1, characteristics of pure devotional service. Reading the first paragraph from Nectar of Devotion book. And it begins with Srila Rupa Goswami quoting from third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He quotes a definition again of Bhakti, Shuddha Bhakti, from third canto, 29th chapter, verses 12 and 13. Anyone online would like to read the first paragraph? Please go ahead, unmute yourself. Read the first paragraph, chapter 1.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Go ahead.
Dandavad Pranam. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 29th chapter, verses 12 and 13, Shri Kapiladeva, while instructing his mother, has given the following characteristics of pure devotional service. My dear mother, those who are my pure devotees and who have no desire for material benefit or philosophical speculations have their minds so much engaged in my service that they are never interested in asking me for anything except to be engaged in that service. They do not even beg to live in my abode with me.
And the next paragraph.
There are 5 kinds of
And the next paragraph, 5 kinds of liberation are quoted, which we just read over. And then in the following, after describing all this, then Srila Rupa Goswami in the next paragraph talks about the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. What are the 6 characteristics? Sanskrit is not given, so we'll take a look. I'll quote the Sanskrit here, and it is like this. Please repeat. This is another, some of you might have heard, I often use this verse whenever we discuss the topic of bhakti. Klesagni Shubhada. Loudly, please. Klesagni Shubhada.
Klesagni Subhada.
Moksha Lagota Sudurlabha.
Moksha Lagot Sudurlabha.
Sandarananda Visheshatma.
Sandarananda Visheshatma.
Shri Krishna Kashani Chasa.
Shri Krishna Karshani Chasa.
These are the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. Bhakti is classified in 3 stages: sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti. Kleshagni and Shubhadha manifest at the stage of sadhana bhakti. Kleshagni manifests at the initial stages. Shubhadha manifests at the later stages of sadhana bhakti. Hare Krishna. Abhishek, you're handling Zoom. Kindly mute. Then Bhava Bhakti. At that stage, another 2 qualities manifest. Moksha Lagutakrit Sudurlabha. Let me give you word by word meaning, then we'll take a look at it. It's a very profound subject matter. So Srila Rupa Goswami gives the definition and then he elaborates each of it with a fantastic analysis. Klesha Agni. Klesha means suffering. Agni means jala ke rakh dena. So first symptom of bhakti is your life becomes free from distresses. Your life becomes free from distresses first. And then Shubhada, all auspiciousness. Well, all auspiciousness is not the only quality of Shubhada. Shubhada also means all attractive. So there are 4 things that happen in Shubhada, which Rupa Goswami again characterizes. Only then it's said to be Shubhada in all. Then that happens as sadhana bhakti. Next, is bhava bhakti. Other two symptom manifest, that is moksha, laguta, krit sudurlabha, where even desire for moksha is become almost non-existential, or it feels like laghu, which means very insignificant. Now, I do acknowledge some of you might wonder, who cares for moksha? How many of you here cares for moksha? Yes or no? At this point, let me ask you, how many of you care for moksha? How many of you have thought, why scripture says again and again, desire for moksha? I never thought even about moksha. Please raise your hands. How many of you thought, why it is moksha? I never even thought about moksha. And Shastra says again, moksha, moksha, moksha. We're not much educated on this subject matter, but it is a very inherent desire within all of us. Therefore, decide it is beyond sadhana bhakti and bhava bhakti only this desire goes away. It's a very deep rooted desire. And this moksha exists in different levels. One level of moksha is freedom from suffering. Another level of moksha is shanti, shanti. And the highest level of moksha is attaining prema. But it's a deep rooted desire. Sudurlabha is very rarely attained. What is rarely attained? Bhava bhakti, which means attraction for Krishna. Not only attraction, there is some affection for Krishna. Sudurlabha, very rarely attained. Then the third stage is called prema bhakti. What happens in prema bhakti? Sandharananda visheshatma, fifth characteristic, and Sri Krishna akarshani. Sandharananda visheshatma. If you see, Haribol, for online devotees, you have to have a verse. They'll not understand without verse. So, laser pointer. Okay. Shubhata means all auspiciousness. All auspiciousness means all happiness. Correct? Sandharananda Visheshatma means condensed happiness. How condensed happiness? Example is given of metal. You cannot pierce a metal. Isn't condensed. So what is the difference between Shubhada and Sandharananda Visheshatma? Shubhada means yes, all auspiciousness, all happiness. Sandharananda Visheshatma means your bliss, which is awarded at Prema Bhakti. Your bliss is so great, it can never be affected, or any kind of sensual pleasure or material pleasure can cause any kind of interference. It's just impossible. It's extremely condensed nature of happiness. That is Sandharana Visheshatma. And the sixth quality or characteristic of pure devotion services, Shri Krishna Akashani Chasa, which means Shri Krishna Akashani. Who attracts Krishna? Srimati Radharani. At this stage, your bhakti begins to attract even Krishna. Just like an example is given in this subject matter, Srimati Radharani's discussion is but necessary. We'll do it when we come, just to give you introducing you the subject matter. Everyone is chasing after Krishna. In fact, all the gopis are also chasing after Krishna. And as we see from Rasalila pastime also, but whom did Krishna chase? Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani manifests as Haladani. And Haladani Shakti, the essence of Haladani Shakti is Prema. So Srimati Radharani is nothing but she epitomizes Prema. In other words, who has developed that Prema for the Lord, the Lord begins to follow behind that individual. Is that making sense? Like that? So the first is a byproduct, Klesagni Subhadha. Moksha Lagutakrit, again a byproduct. Sudurlabha, but to move from sadhana bhakti to bhava bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is something which we perform. This is what we perform. But after this, the next stage is bhava bhakti and prema bhakti, which is the subject matter we'll be discussing at length later on. It is awarded. What? It is given. We cannot demand. We cannot get access to it by our endeavor. Therefore, it is said, Sudullabha. It is only given to us by Krishna. And when one has developed prema, then it begins to attract Krishna. That is prema bhakti. What is the difference between bhava bhakti and prema bhakti? Srila Jiva Goswami, in his commentary to Nectar Devotion, in his writings, he said, there is two kinds of bhakti. Sadhana bhakti and sadhya bhakti. What is sadhana? Which as a sadhaka we perform. And the goal of sadhana bhakti is sadhya. What is the goal? Prema. If the goal of bhakti is prema, why introduce bhava bhakti? If goal is prema, why bring bhava bhakti in between? We can take the screen off now. The idea is, what is the difference between bhava and prema? In bhava also, you're beyond all anarthas. You're beyond all kind of attraction to this world. You are attracted to Krishna. There is nothing coming back in this world. Of course, you can still fall. Bhava bhakti mistake can happen. I'll come to it. Why bhava bhakti? A step before prema bhakti is why it is introduced. What is prohibiting somebody from bhava bhakti to quickly reach to the stage of prema bhakti? There are no anarthas. There are no anarthas now. If there are no anarthas, then my bhakti should grow to become immediately prema bhakti. The only thing which acts as an obstruction, even at an advanced stage of bhava bhakti is Vaishnava aparadh. The reaction to Vaishnava aparadh would not let us, our bhakti, to mature into full prema. Therefore, bhava bhakti is introduced to help us understand that how anarthas and everything are easily removed by practice of bhakti. But even the aparadh committed to Vaishnava, the reaction created because of aparadh to Vaishnava are not so easily removed. And therefore, a devotee may have to perform long time just on the stage of bhava bhakti. And why is not able to move forward? Because Vaishnava aparadh, the reaction to Vaishnava aparadh is acting as a obstruction. So this is a brief introduction to the subject matter. Please go on to the slide, please. Let's take a look at it. So these are the definitions to this, and we'll start looking at one-on-one. Let's talk about the subject matter of Klesagni. Shall we continue? Take a break? Is okay? We'll take a break. We'll continue for another 15 minutes. I'll cover the topic of Klesagni. In fact, Klesagni is the biggest subject. Then we'll go and take a break. All right. Klesagni, relief from all distress. A part of it I have already discussed in NOI text 6. When we talked about the stress of bhava janitir vapuchasya doshe, there I raised a question: does even a pure devotee have dosha? Sharirik dosha and manasik dosha. Sharirik dosha is kapha pittavad, manasik dosha is because of modes of material nature or like that. So does even devotee has some faults? Pure devotees have faults. Let's come here. Kleshagni, freedom from distress. So here is my question to all of you. Klesha means suffering. Let's begin with asking a question to all of you. Hare Krishna. What is happening? Somebody is writing it is very heavy. What is heavy?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji,
I just saw the comment.
the
I
topic
was
itself
talking
is too heavy.
Yeah, who is speaking?
Prabhuji, the topic itself is Radha Mandali Devidas. Radha Mundara.
Yeah, as I said, this is a scientific presentation of bhakti. It's a research work and very technically presented. And therefore, I said before you come for this discussion, it is highly advised that you read it to get a grasp of it. Otherwise, it's just going to be difficult. And on top of it, if you're going to just hear online, hearing, which is surrounded by many distractions, so Nitai Gaur Haribol. All the best, only I can say that. So if in case you're finding it difficult to catch, my suggestion would be keep hearing, at least something you will be able to catch. After this, make sure you read the whole what Prabhupada have written and then hear it again. Your casual hearing and reading, you will not be able to grasp Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu regardless of how much details I go. Because points are connected with each other. If you miss one part of definition, you'll not understand what's the next thing. And second, have patience. Dhire, dhire. We will be able to understand. All right. Okay, so my first question to all of you, Kleshagni is still a simpler subject matter. Let's take a look at it. So my question to all of you, the first question, what is according to you the prime cause of sufferings in your life? What is the prime cause of suffering in your life? Yes. Online devotees, if you have an
Past
answer, quickly unmute and
insecurity.
say. And do not forget to mute yourself. Mother Radha Mundara, desire. Okay, great. What else? What is a great
Attachment.
avidya? Okay. Ignorance. Ignorance is a cause. Desire is a cause. What else? Yeah, sinful
Past sinful
action.
reaction.
Sinful action. Sinful action. You forgot that. Correct. Thank you. So these are the three things which are the cause of sinful, of the cause of suffering. What are the cause of suffering? Papam, avidya. Papa means sinful action. Avidya means ignorance, and material desires, which are also called as bijam in a Sanskrit word. Okay, Hare Krishna. Let's go
So
back
all
to
the
the.
three are connected in a way.
Yes, Prabhuji, all three are connected. That's what Srila Rupa Goswami explains. We're just going to go to that explanation here now. Correct.
Okay.
So, Klesha, going back to the presentation again, at least some connection we'll have because as we have identified what are the causes, you'll find it easy to understand then. Pure devotional service brings immediate relief from all kinds of material distress. All right, let's take a look. So it is mentioned, Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, 2nd chapter, verse number 50. Narad Muni speaking to Vasudev. Please note down this verse, read the purport as an homework. Otherwise, it'll be too voluminous discussion if I go in details. But I'll quote some references for you. You can read it as a few things later on. And it is said by Narad Muni, Na kama karma bijanam yasya chetasi sambhavaha Vasudevaikanilyaha Savai Bhagavata Uttamaha. Translation. One who has taken exclusive shelter of the Supreme Lord, Vasudev, becomes free from fruitive activities, karma, which are based on material lust. In fact, one who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord is freed even from the desire to enjoy material sense gratification. So you're freed from papa, you're free from bij. Plans for enjoying sex life, social prestige, money cannot develop within his mind. Thus, he is considered Bhagavad Uttama, a pure devotee of the Lord on the highest platform. Now, one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Lord has anyways overcome avidya. Avidya to consider oneself to be Lord. So he has defeated avidya, he has defeated papam, he has defeated vijam, which means just by the mere practice of bhakti, we can counteract we can counteract our suffering. There are two ways to counteract suffering. Sixth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, first chapter discusses when the conversation between our Sukdev Goswami and Parishit Maharaj. Excluding details, giving a quick synopsis here. Fifth canto ends with discussion of hellish life, hellish planets, and then Parishit Maharaj, being a pure devotee, his heart filled with compassion, asked, how can these people be saved from such hellish conditions of life? They are there because they're papam, because sinful actions. How can be they saved from suffering? And then कहते हैं हमारे Sukdev Goswami began to talk about austerity, charity, etc., etc. Parishit Maharaj said, well, I do agree, it's a good solution, but it's not a permanent fix. Yes, you're performing of tapasya. We have many vratas, we perform chaturmas. Then we have charity, for the service of the Lord, for yajna ityadi, give charity, performing yajna like this, tapasya, yajna, dan, etc. Definitely they help counteract or neutralize sinful reactions. So imagine if you have performed this much stock of sinful action for which you're supposed to get this much sinful reaction, and you perform certain kind of ritual, what could be tapa, yajna, dan, it counteracts, it neutralizes, it makes it zero again. But the question that Parikshit Maharaj raises is, all right, any of these rituals have neutralized, but the problem is like elephant bathing. Just like an elephant goes into the river very nicely with a lot of effort, fills his trunk with water, and again puts on his body, cleans himself, comes back onto the ground, again puts trunk on his ground, puts mud in his trunk, and puts it back onto the body. Hey, so what's the point of taking bath? In other words, he's saying your reactions have been cleared, but your desire has not been removed. how desire can be removed. So there are two ways of counteracting sinful reactions. One was yajna, tapaha, dana, and one is through bhakti. Bhakti also does it. What yajna, dana, tapa doesn't do, it neutralizes sinful reactions, but it cannot uproot the desire itself. Whereas bhakti can uproot desire. Therefore, when Parishad Maharaj discussed further with Sukdev Goswami, he said, well, I don't agree, I don't accept the solution. That's that time Sukdev Goswami gave an example of Ajamil to establish how bhakti is the highest. It's the only way, not only you get rid of the sinful reaction, but you also get rid of desires. Just by once chanting the holy name of the Lord, Ajamil, he was, just by once chanting the holy name of the Lord by Ajamil, his life was protected and he was able to engage himself in devotional service. So when we remember Srila Prabhupada's course in one of his classes on the subject matter, when Ajamil saw the prostitute, it's not that just by seeing he became contaminated. It never happens like this. He had that sinful desire to enjoy other women. And when he saw that desire manifested. And then it took a particular shape where he wanted to enjoy with that woman only. And because of which he went and, so how is this whole cycle of papam, how it begins? Maybe let me give a little synopsis, then we'll take a look. The whole cycle of papa, sinful action, begins with avidya. Avidya means ignorance of who I am, my real identity. Considering ourselves to be the Lord of what we purview and what not, what we survey, from there it all begins. And from that avidya begins bijam. What is bijam? Bijam refers to desire. Bijam refers to just any desire. However, it takes a particular shape that is called as kutam, which means somebody may have a desire to cheat. Somebody may have a desire to lie. This is just a very broad desire, sinful desire. But it takes a particular shape of kutam, which means particular desire. That is, I want to steal that iPhone. So from broad, it becomes a narrow desire. And then that desire results into papam, where he actually performs a sinful action of stealing an iPhone. Now, when you perform an action, sinful action, what happens? Then two things happen. From sinful action creates sinful reaction. That is called as aprarabdha. Okay? I'm giving synopsis. I'll show you on the presentation. I know it can get difficult, but let's see. At least I'll give you a overview. When you perform a sinful action, it produces a sinful reaction that is called as aprarabdha. Aprarabdha produces two stages. First stage is aprarabdha means you've got a sinful reaction, but you have not yet faced the result of it. You'll get the result of it in future. And when that sinful reaction matures, when you get a result, it is called as prarabdha. So we having this body is the maturity of our sinful reaction, because of which we have got this material body. Therefore, as a child, when your parents would have taken you to an astrologer, he would have written everything what they call as Janampatri. 28 से लेकर 32 साल तक इस पे शनि की दशा रहेगी, 24 से लेकर 26 तक राहु की दशा रहेगी, ऐसे इसके जीवन में संकट आएगा, 35 साल की उम्र में इसकी सफलता की बहुत चांसेस हैं. Remember, like this they will talk about. And at the age of 60 he will fall seriously ill. He might face a life situation where he may survive, may not survive, very tough time. If he survives, then he may live until 70. How many of you find it familiar? How an astrologer, let's call him a scientist in one way, anyone is able to tell you what all you're going to face if it is not predefined. How can it tell what all going to happen with you if it is not predefined? So this is called as prarabdha. You're born with your stock of sinful reaction which you're going to face in this lifetime. But this is not static, it is dynamic. Because once we take birth, we perform action, we still keep on creating many sinful reactions. And some of those sinful reactions can become prarabdha immediately, some of them may become prarabdha in the future life. Therefore, the subject of karma becomes very complicated, as Krishna explains the fourth. So one is getting the result, which is physiological. We get suffering. Second stage of aprarabdha is a sinful inclination, which is called as bijam, desire, where I would like to do that. And that bijam becomes kutam, more refined. I will do this only. And that kutam leads to action called papam. Like this, it is something, what you call as um, a vicious cycle. You cannot break, or we cannot break it on our strength. Once a person performs papa, he is caught into that vicious cycle. Papa leads to desire. Desire forces him to perform sinful action. Sinful action forces him to desire further. And that desire forces him to perform an action. And that's how he gets caught up into it. All right, let's take a look at it after this little synopsis. Please go back onto the presentation. So here it is mentioned, through bhakti, all of this can be uprooted. These are some references. When simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna once, a person is relieved from all the reactions of sinful life. Madhya 15.107. Shitosi Pradakshina Mantra. When a person circumambulates, Yani Kani Chapapani Brahma Tyadikani Yani Kani Chapapani. All the sinful reactions is destroyed at every step. Even the sin of Yanikani Brahmatyadikani cha. Even if you committed sin of killing a Brahmana, you're forgiven for one who circumambulates Tulsi Maharani. All right, this I'll skip. So Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami writes like this: Kleshas tu papam tat bijam avidya cheti tretridha. So Rupa Goswami identifies three causes for our suffering, which we discussed. First is papam, action. Second is bijam, sinful desire. Third is ignorance. Is that clear? Please write down. The cause of suffering is these three things as identified by Srila Rupa Goswami. Let's take a look at it. Avidya is the root that leads to bijam, material desires. That becomes sinful action. And that sinful action leads to mute. Sinful action leads to suffering. So now we'll begin our analysis of this whole subject matter. So what we're going to discuss now is what is this each stage refers to? What does it mean? And how bhakti destroys each of this step by step. Just by practice of bhakti, avidya is destroyed, material desires are destroyed. So, there is no desire, there is no question of sinful action. And there is no sinful action further, there is no question of suffering. And therefore it is said, Klesagni, like that. Okay. Avidya, how to destroy ignorance. What does Krishna says, or what does Scripture says in that regard? So first of all, we say itself, one of the Mangala Charan that we recite, Om Agyan Timirandasya Jnana Anjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Similarly, in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, this is a famous verse, Vasudeva Bhagavati. Everyone, Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahitukam. In essence, it is mentioned, first canto, second chapter, verse number 7. Just by practicing Bhakti Yoga, one automatically attains renunciation as well as Jnana, Ahitukam, which means causeless. It means not that you have to make a specific endeavor, but by performing Bhakti Yoga. And what is the major emphasis in Bhakti Yoga? If I ask you, for all of you practicing Bhakti Yoga all this while, what is the major emphasis? What is the most important thing that we need to do in practice of Bhakti Yoga? Okay, Shravanam. What is the most important thing that we need? Chanting. Shravanam, Kirtana, Vishnu. Once again, what is the most important thing we need to do in Bhakti Yoga?
Chanting.
Yeah, got that point. Chanting. Hearing, chanting, Shravanam, Kirtana, Vishnu. What else? What's the most important thing we need to do in Bhakti Yoga?
Hearing our chanting.
The most important thing is hearing and chanting is also instructed to us by Guru, which means following the instructions of Guru. Because hearing and chanting is not something that we picked it up. It has been told to us to do it. So one of the important aspects of Bhakti Yoga, particularly at the sadhana Bhakti stage, is following the instructions of Guru. So now imagine if hearing and chanting is the most important thing, then we should chant 6 hours and hear 10 hours. Then we'll become purified, yes or no? But how many hours, if you see for what system Prabhupada instituted, you chant 2 hours, you hear 1 hour, you read 1 hour, like that. So if you imagine 4 to 5 hours we do chanting and hearing, what do you do for the rest 19 hours? And then Prabhupada said, do services. So emphasis in Bhakti Yoga is not cultivating jnana. You seeing that? If in case we can practice in Bhakti Yoga mark because of cultivation of jnana, then we would have been asked to study and hear for 4 to 8 hours. But even we are not asked to chant for so long. Of course, we know the reason why Prabhupada didn't say. One of the reasons is we don't have that capacity. But for doing services, for example, when Jiva Goswami, such a learned scholar, even before he went to Vrindavan, he was already established as a great scholar. When he went to Vrindavan, Jiva Goswami approached Sanatan Goswami to take shelter. I made this point last time. Sanatan sent him to Rupa Goswami. And why Sanatan considered Rupa Goswami to be his senior? Because Rupa Goswami had renounced before than Sanatan Goswami. But Rupa Goswami always worshipped Sanatan Goswami to be his spiritual master. We clarified that last time. Sanatan Goswami sent Jiva Goswami to Rupa Goswami. And how did Rupa Goswami engage Jiva Goswami? What were the first services that Rupa Goswami gave to Jiva Goswami? जाओ दिल्ली बराबर में है शहनशाह आलम अकबर जी राज कर रहे हैं जाओ उनको भगवद गीता का प्रचार करके आओ ताकि आगे आने वाली संतान थोड़ी सात्विक पैदा होगी we'll be saved from Aurangzeb. I'm just joking on that regard. Point is, how did Rupa Goswami engage Jiva Goswami? He engaged in menial services. For hours together, he would spend preparing his sheets, made up from tea bark, so that Rupa Goswami can do his writing. He'll prepare the ink. He'll clean up his ashram. Everything. So one of the major aspects is, so if you look at this verse, go back to the verse please. What is said? Vasudeva Bhakti Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. One who engages in Bhakti Yoga. And what is a Bhakti Yoga? As we'll learn in second chapter onwards, in the sadhana bhakti stage, the foremost activity that we need to do is follow the instructions of Guru. And according to that, we do Shravanam and Kirtanam. Not every Shravanam and Kirtanam will be counted as bhakti. That's the point here. And when we do that, Janayati Yasu Vairagyam, Jnanam Chayat Ahitukam, it is by the cause and mercy is given. What does Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in this regard? Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Pritipurvakam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mamupiyanti Te. That's what he says also. Krishna also says. Tesham Satata Yuktanam. One who is engaged, Satatam is always. Bhajatam Pritipurvakam, rendering devotional service with affection. Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. Yena Mam. I give him the intelligence by which he can come to me. So Jnana is received. Jnana is not necessarily cultivated. Of course, as a part of Bhakti Yoga, under the instruction of Guru, we also cultivate some part of Jnana. But that's not our prime emphasis. Is that okay? So that's how avidya is destroyed just by practicing Bhakti Yoga. Let's move forward. Ignorance, Prabhupada writes. This is from your annual book. There are many, many snakes on the ground of the forest. And when a fire takes place, it burns the dried foliage, and the snakes are immediately attacked. Similarly, the blazing fire of Krishna consciousness is so strong that the snakes of ignorance are immediately killed. Like that, the subject matter of avidya has been addressed. All right. This is actually a reference from Padma Puran. All right. So the root cause of his suffering is avidya. Avidya is destroyed by just practice of Bhakti Yoga, because Bhakti Yoga awards us Jnanam. And that Jnanam is transcendental knowledge. Let's come to the second factor which causes in our suffering. That is Bijam, material desires. Okay. Material desires. Example. Ajamil. We already quoted that example of Ajamil here. Yeah, I already spoke about Ajamil. He had that lingering desire, and when he saw that prostitute, so Bijam refers to a material desire, not necessarily anything specific. Which means Ajamil. If you just go back to example of Ajamil to help you understand, Ajamil had a desire, not necessary from his life, this particular life, maybe from his past life. He might have performed certain action. Any sinful action also gives you further strength to the desire. So he had the desire to enjoy women. Maybe not in that life he did something, but despite being born in a Brahmana family, well cultured and trained in Brahminical principle, that Ajamil, when his eyes fell on that prostitute and a man who appeared to be enjoying, that desire became, very specific, became very prominent. And it is mentioned how Ajamil, for when he saw that, he was frightened. He hid behind the tree. You see him hiding behind the tree? And then from the side glances, he was looking at again and again. Now, why would you look at it? If in case you have no desire, would you look at it? You're not bothered. And particularly something which is obnoxious, which is unclean, you'll not look at it. But because there was a desire, and that's how he became victim. So that desire to enjoy this world or the sense objects Ajamil had within his subtle body, it manifested, which resulted in performing a papam, as you know, rest of the story. Prabhupada, this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 2nd chapter, verse number 17. Ajamil case study has been discussed, where it is mentioned. As I already said about how, let's take a look at the same point. Although one may neutralize the reactions of sinful life through austerity, tapa, dana, yajna, but they cannot uproot material desires in one's heart. However, if one serves the lotus feet of the personality, God is immediately freed from all such contaminations. And classic example is Ajamil. Prabhupada writes, when Ajamil chanted Narayana, that's the power of the holy name of the Lord, even if it was chanted with intending to call somebody else. Just by calling the name of Narayana, that's a potency of the holy name. His life was protected. Neha vikramonashvasi pratyavayana vidyate swalpamasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhyat. He was protected. Not only that, he was purified of all his sinful reactions. Not only that, not only sinful reactions, all desires were also uprooted when he heard from Vishnu Duta and he understood. And immediately from there, he went to Haridwar and he perfected his life. And it all began with just once chanting the holy name of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 22nd chapter, verse number 39 purport. These are all the references which Rupa Goswami gives. I'm just giving in a story format because if you read directly, you may get a little confused. Then you can read it later on. The bhaktas, by their transcendental devotion service under the lotus feet of the Lord, become so overwhelmed with transcendental bliss that automatically their desires for material enjoyment stop. Desires for fruitive activities are strongly rooted, but the trees of desire can be uprooted completely by devotional service, because devotional service implies superior desire, which means it changes your desire altogether, like that. So that's how our desire is burnt to ashes or uprooted by the practice of Bhakti Yoga. And then comes the third topic, which is Papam. And this requires little explanation because what we discussed about avidya and bijam is nothing but part of this cycle of sin. Let's take a look at what is this papam. Srila Rupa Goswami writes, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. This is the 19th verse. We started with the 18th verse. Aprarabdham bhavet papam prarabdham cheti tadvidha. Tad, it is said, dvidha means two. There are two kinds of sinful reactions to a papa. What is that? One is called as aprarabdham and second is called as prarabdham. Okay. Prabhupada writes, sinful activities are of two kinds. Those that are mature and those which are not mature. Mature refers to those which you are facing in this current life, that is called as prarabdha. Those which are yet to receive are called as aprarabdha. You understand Sanskrit works like this. You put a meaning reverses. The sinful activity for which we are suffering in the present moment are called mature, which are stored for future are called as immature. So there are two kinds of sinful reaction. Aprarabdham, immature, and prarabdham, mature and manifest. All right. Can unmanifest reaction cause suffering? For example, somebody may argue now, oh really? Which means if if my quota of suffering is pre-decided, right? Because I am born with certain prarabdha quota. Fine, who cares for the next life? I can continue performing wrong activities, suffering anyways I'm gonna receive in the future, nah. We'll see what happens. But it's not like that. There is a physiological and a psychological effect that every sinful activity produces. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine a thief. Can take out the screen now. Imagine a thief. He decides to rob a particular house. And he enters into the house at the dead end of the night and he's successful in breaking into the locker and stealing all the jewelry from there. You'll call it mission succeeded, completed. Now there is a whole police chase is going on. They're trying to figure it out. Probably there was a camera which captured his image and whatnot, and that whole case will go on if he's captured. So one thing is apparently it looks like as long as he's not captured, you'll say he's not getting the reaction. But how many of you agree the moment he commits the crime of stealing, physiologically he has not been caught and punished, but psychologically fear has taken birth and he will continue to suffer because of that fear. Yes or no? Are you getting this point? That's the point. To think that now I can commit, I will suffer in the future, that is only physiological. Or psychologically, you're suffering from now, the moment you perform a sinful action. That's the point. Slide, please. Can unmanifest reaction cause suffering? Yes. It creates a physical as well as an emotional trauma. Direct physical or emotional suffering, indirect suffering is by increasing our proclivity to commit sin. And then sooner or later, we are caught. Okay, let me ask this question to all of you. We have in our past, God only knows what all sinful activities have performed. When we take birth in this life, they all are stored within us in the form of bija. And it fructifies in different shapes. Maybe as a tendency to lie, as a tendency to cheat, as a tendency to steal, or all different kind of things that you may understand now. Now, how do you deal with this bija? Now you say Ajamil was one rare case, he chanted Hare Krishna and he was protected. Prabhuji, I'm having a very wrong desire in my heart and I'm chanting holy names of the Lord, but nothing is happening. What can you do? What should be done? Is that making sense? Getting a point? Let's say somebody had been, in the past, before coming to Krishna consciousness, he had been an alcoholic. Screen, please. He had been an alcoholic. And now he has stopped drinking alcohol for last 5 months. He's chanting Hare Krishna every day, everything's okay. But he had a fight in his house with his wife or maybe with kid or parents. He's upset. He goes out with his friends just to, take a break from what all is happening. And the friend offers him, party from my side. Here is your favorite brand, whiskey, pile yaar. What's going to happen? He's already disturbed, and there could be chances where he may be tempted. What he's supposed to do? How many of you say he should loudly chant, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna? The loudly he will chant, the desire will get burnt up. How many of you have done that? And for you, Nothing happened. Also, what are we supposed to do? What solution? Any suggestion? If you're still doubtful, chant Nasimha, Nasimha, bachao, bachao. What do you think we should do? What's gonna work? Huh? Oh, share it with Sheena तो जब होगा तो बचेगा. You share it with Sheena is a later on thing. You're right there. प्रभु तुमने sound disable कर दिए क्या? वैकुंठ प्रभु.
Get into,
Yeah, now
get
you're
into the
audible.
association of devotees.
हाँ वैकुंठ प्रभु.
Get into the association of devotees.
Drink along with devotees.
No.
क्या? Hey, volume
Association
बढ़ाओ,
of
volume बढ़ाओ.
devotees.
What are you saying?
Association of devotees. Associate with the devotees.
Correct. But what to do? This
When you
fellow
get-
was, he had trouble in the house. He's upset, and is some local friend. It's not that we become devotees. We have no outside friends. We still have, na. Now, if somebody called you up, and you find, okay, yeah, I need a break. Enough is enough. And he went out, and this guy, his friend of his, who had been looking for an opportunity to get back onto him, he says, "Wow, today's the chance," and he takes him directly to the pub. And he might have started the journey saying that let's go to Radha Vidhamachandra temple. Now imagine you are alone with him and he offers you, today party is on my name. Drink. And you had that done in the past. You're tempted. So we are discussing that, bhakti can destroy, uproot. So what should we do at this point of time is my question.
चुपचाप पी लो.
चुपचाप पी लो. That's not a solution. Yeah, Kamala, through we understand it takes time. I'm asking you, what will you do? Okay, let me put it this way. How many of you have found yourself in a similar situation? The circumstances, the object of sense gratification could have changed. It could be eating non-offered prasadam. Sorry, non-offered prasadam nahi hota, non-offered bhoga. Or not offered bhoga. Bhoga. It could be eating bhoga. It could be eating something which is cooked with onion, garlic. It could be maybe, you had a taste for watching movies. Could be watching cricket match, etc., whatnot. And, all that past desires manifested. Karke rahunga. And how much ever you chant Hare Krishna, how many of you say it's a practical challenge? Even if you don't have it now, maybe you have faced it in your life in the past, or you see devotees facing. How many of you agree? Please raise your hand high up. My question now to all of you is, what is the solution? What is the solution? At this point of time, what is the solution?
Limit the quantity.
Escape the situation. Again, to
Run away from the situation.
Okay, good point. Run away from the situation. Escape the situation. Good. Thank you. Very good. What else?
Limit the quantity, Prabhuji.
Limit the quantity. Arey wah. Eh, I'm not expecting such kind of solution from Bhakti Shastri students at least.
Prabhu, it is 2:30, 3 o'clock, sleeping time. You're asking such questions.
Okay.
You get such answers.
I'm already asking those who are half drunk right now, half intoxicated because of sleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Prabhuji,
Can
divert the thought
give
Yeah.
excuse at that time that I have
and engage
some,
in something else.
Madhav Prabhu, you're saying yes.
Prabhuji, I don't know if exactly the question I followed, because I think if someone has already committed that mistake, admit the mistake.
No,
come
that's
back,
that's not the
revisit.
point. You're put into a situation where you're tempted. That's the point here right now. All right, let's move forward. I've taken enough time on the discussion here, and the answer for it is, as Krishna begins his instructions in Bhagavad Gita, Mata Svashastu Kaunteya Shitoshna Sukadukada Agama Painu Nitya Tam Titikshva Tam Titikshva Bharataha. So we would be put into the situation, or we would have to, because we have done certain things in the past, and the desires, sinful desires, are still there, and this sinful desire will come back again and again in time to haunt us. And the best way to deal with it, on the strength of our spiritual practice, our strength of spiritual practice gives us the ability to tolerate these desires. And when we are able to tolerate these desires, then we don't perform the action. When we don't perform the action, the desire is not further strengthened. So, through the ability of tolerating this desire, this ability to tolerate, the strength to tolerate, comes from our practice of Krishna consciousness, then we are able to break this vicious cycle of sin. This is how our acharyas explain, and this is how Krishna begins Bhagavad Gita. Tam stitikshva bharata. So the one very important quality that a human being, that defines you to be a human being, is the ability to tolerate. And that tolerance is not based on fear. That tolerance is not based on what you say as circumstantial. The tolerance is based on spiritual strength, knowing what is right, what is wrong, what I'm supposed to do, what I'm not supposed to do. And when you tolerate, then what happens? Your determination increases. When you're next time haunted by the same thing, because your determination have increased, it will be easy for us to tolerate. When you again tolerate, your determination increases. When again the sinful desire haunts us, if you're able to fight with it, your determination increases. Eventually, now if that desire crosses the mind, it will not affect you. Let me give you a simple example. Like this, we have got rid of many sinful desires, which probably was not such a big challenge to us, but so many things we have already left. It could be meat eating, it could be alcohol, onion, garlic, omelets. I mean, something you were addicted in the past is a different thing that it may haunt you. But something which you, let's say tea. I mean, you just can't, the thought, even if you see somebody drinking tea, it just doesn't crosses your mind. Because you cultivated that practice of saying no, no, and no. And your determination became so strong. Now, if even it crosses your mind, it just doesn't causes trouble to you. That is how. But how does you get the strength to say no? The strength to say no comes from our practice of Krishna consciousness. That's the key point. That's how bhakti destroys. And Prabhupada in NOD, when you read, Prabhupada compares that to karmis and jnanis. Because they don't have any strength to say no. They'll do big things, say big lectures. They'll go back to the, breaking the four dilative principles. I hope this clarifies. Let's move forward quickly. Presentation, please. What's the answer for this is, we should not try to satisfy sinful desires. Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, verse number 70 is what Krishna says. Please repeat. Apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudramapa pravishanti yadva tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti na kami. A person is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Therefore, we need to cultivate our ability to tolerate such sinful desires. Moving forward, now Srila Rupa Goswami writes further, and he says, Aprarabdha phalam papam Kutam bijam phalan mukham Kramaneva praliyeta Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. I recently quoted this shloka to all of you only. Do you remember where did I discuss this shloka? When I discussed on the subject matter of karma, while we were discussing Nectar of Instruction, text number 6, mantra 6. And this particular shloka is quoted by Sanatan Goswami in Hari Bhakti Vilas on the subject matter of how practice of bhakti destroys your aprarabdha, your kutam and bijam. And that is what Rupa Goswami is saying here. And Sanatan Goswami in Hari Bhakti Vilas says, we discussed that whole point. Bhakti does not destroy your aprarabdha, kutam, bijam and papam. It also destroys your prarabdha, if you remember from Nectar Instruction. So it is mentioned, aprarabdha, which you're going to suffer in the future, aprarabdha phalam, papam, Kutam, Bijam, Kramaneva Praliyate, Vishnu Bhakti Ratatmanam. Those who engage in devotional service to the Lord, they get freed from all this. There are four kinds of effects due to sinful activities. The Prarabdh, Kutam, Bijam, which is already mature and which is already mature, like that. Those are details. Okay, let's take a look. This is a different way of giving definition, but that's the idea, get free. Let's talk about sinful action. So what happens when a sinful action is performed? Sinful action leads to aprarabdha. As I said in the beginning while giving a synopsis. Aprarabdha leads to two things. First, a manifest result, which is a what you call as physical suffering, could be a mental suffering. That is called as phalan mukham or prarabdha. Then aprarabdha has two stages. The second stage is kutam. Kutam is actually kutam. Bijam is desire. Kutam should be specific. No, kutam, bijam is general and kutam should be specific. 1 second. Oh, yes. Kutam refers to sinful inclination. Bija refers to bij, which means specific. जैसे बीज कहते हैं ना आम का बीज अलग अलग तो वो kutam is sinful inclination, correct. General inclination, sinful inclination. As I said, you have a tendency to cheat, tendency to lie. And then it becomes bijam. It takes the shape of stealing an iPhone or stealing someone's car. That is called as bijam. And it is a step before performing a sinful action. This sinful desire forces us to perform a sinful action, and like this results into a cycle, a vicious cycle. How do you break this vicious cycle? How do you break this vicious cycle? Bijam. Aprarad, what has happened in the past is lingering within our consciousness or in our heart in the form of kutam and bijam. In the heart of form of kutam. It may even take a shape of bijam, particular sinful desire. What we need to do at that point of time? Tolerate. And it is only the ability and strength of Vaishnavas, devotees, who can tolerate. And then when you don't perform that papam, imagine what will happen when you don't do that action. Then there is no further strengthening. There is no aprarabdha further created. That's how eventually the bijam or kutam goes out the window. That's how it has been explained. Therefore, it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, these are the verses which Srila Rupa Goswami quotes, regardless of who you are, one who takes to the practice of devotional service. Beautiful verse. Yannama deha shavananu kirtana yat pravana yasmarana api kavachit together. Shvadopi sadhya savanaya kalpate kudha punaste bhagavan udarshana. To say nothing of the spiritual advancement of persons who see the Supreme Person face to face. Even a person born in a family of dog eater immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices, even if he once utters the holy name of the Lord, hears about his pastimes, offers him obeisance, or even remembers him. Just by doing one devotion service, he becomes qualified to perform Vedic sacrifices. Then ahead, Mother Devuti says, Aho batasva pachato gariyan yachva gareva tate namatubhyam te tapasya juhushnararya brahmana charnamagranantiyete. Oh, how glorious are they whose tongues are chanting your holy name. Even if born in the families of dog eaters, such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your Lordship must have executed all kinds of austerities and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manner of the Aryans. To be chanting the holy name of your Lordship, they must have bathed at holy places of pilgrimage, studied the Vedas, fulfilled everything required. In the verse, it is said those who are able to chant the holiness of the Lord must have performed every single pious activity. That's how they're able to chant the holy name of the Lord. That's the potency, that's the power of the holy names. So Prabhupada writes, one who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service has without doubt become freed from all contaminations of material sinful activities. Devotional service therefore has the power to actually nullify all kinds of reactions to sinful deeds. That's how a practicing devotee gets freed from kleshas. And kleshas manifest in what form? Kleshas manifest as Adhibhautika Klesh, Adi Atmika, and Adi Devika. These are the kleshas which are created, and these are kleshas all created because of one's karmic reactions. These are predefined, and once by the practice, he gets freed from all these kleshas. Of course, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi, that issues remain. Coming to the next subject matter, just before we conclude this Klesagni, once again taking a look at the cycle. Avidya is a root cause which leads to bijam, sinful desire, which leads to sinful act called papam. That leads to aprarabdha, which is not manifest but stored. Aprarabdha leads to kutam. Aprarabdha has two stages. One is which matures into prarabdha, where you get reaction. The second is sinful inclination to perform that sinful act again. And this is the cycle of sin. This is how sin is performed not once, again and again and again. Therefore, any kind of punitive measures, reformatory measures, if it does not involve the element of bhakti, would not help that individual give up that habits. Let's say if somebody is put behind prison house, he might come and not engage in it, but for a short while. But he will resume his past activities again because the desires have not been nullified. And the second stage of unmanifest is manifest. That is called as prarabdha, and this is that prarabdha which leads to suffering. This is the whole cycle of sin. Srila Prabhupada writes, the vices in the different stages of development are analyzed herein. Phalan mukham is that which may be undergoing at the present stage of life. This is prarabdha. Bijam is in the seedling. I have explained this. This is okay. I have explained, so I'll move forward. Conclude this part of or the subject matter of Klesagni. This is from 6th canto. Sukdev Goswami says, Taistanyagani puyante tapodanavritaadibihi na dharmajam tadhrityam tad api shangri sevaya. Although one may neutralize the reactions of sinful life through austerity, charity, vows, and other such methods, these pious activities cannot uproot the material desires in one's heart. However, if one serves the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, he is immediately freed from all such contaminations. My question to all of you is, if by devotional service we are immediately freed from all such contaminations, why we still have to deal with our sinful desires? Yes, that was a question. If you're put into a tempting situation, actually you have been chanting that desire should not exist only now, na? But we still have some lingering desires, and it takes a while. So why it is said immediately freed? Are you getting this? And you will see this repeatedly in the scriptures where it is said, you are repeatedly freed. What does it mean? How many of you are chanting 16 notes? Everyone? How many of you at sometimes get tempted or get troubled by past sinful tendencies that manifest as sinful desire? You know, things comes back again and again. So my question to all of us here is, we all are chanting, we all are hearing, we are eating prasadam, we're performing bhakti. Here it is mentioned by Sukdev Goswami, one who engages in devotion service of the Lord, immediately he is freed from all of these. What does the meaning of word immediately? So let me help you just to capture this word immediately. Immediately it is said in the context of our eternal life. it does not quantify necessarily. It could be 1 day, 1 month, one lifetime, or it could be multiple lifetime. But when you see your tenure in this material world, which is on the scale of infinity, and if in case for infinite time you had the sinful desire, if even in one lifetime, two lifetime, or three lifetime you get freed because of your practice of bhakti, would you, on the scale of infinity, a count of three, call it as insignificant? Yes or no? You're getting the point? Therefore, it is said immediately. Now, again, I'm saying for somebody, it could be 1 day, somebody could be 1 month, 1 year, maybe 100 years, or multiple lifetimes. But no other process can give us the result as quickly and to the full extent as bhakti. We discussed about our Valmiki Muni had to perform tapasya for 10,000 years. There's Sabari Muni 50,000 years in previous ages. And despite that, like Sabari Muni, he still became a victim like this. I would not say victim, I don't want to use that word so strongly here. But Sabari Muni got tempted because of the aparadh he committed. That is why it is described here. So don't get confused. I am chanting, why I'm still struggling with my past sinful desires. Continue chanting. The answer to deal with it is Matra Sparshas tu Kaunteya. Shitashna Sukha Dukadha. Agama Paino Nityastams Titikshvavat. What we need to do? Tolerate. On the strength of our spiritual practice, if we are performing our devotion service properly, we'll have enough strength to say no. If our devotional service is not being performed properly, we will fail to say no. I will not ask how many times we failed to say no. If you look back into that, if you reflect, your chanting was not happening properly in that whole week or in that whole month. You were not reading and hearing sufficiently. Therefore, your tolerating ability was less. That's how we move. Is that clear? It's a very important subject. Not to have any ambiguity about it. Oh, really? Ajamil, just by chanting Narayan once got saved. I've been chanting, hearing for so long. Why nothing is happening? Well, it just depends on for whom, how it results. But in the scale of infinity, it still happened very quickly. All right, presentation, please. And the subject matter is, we have discussed this in NOI texts, I believe, but I'll just take a little bit discussion here also. This refers to our life as a sadhaka. How do we understand verses from scriptures in the context of there is no suffering in the life of a devotee? Suffering. Srila Prabhupada writes, material contamination is very subtle. Its beginning, its fruition, and its results, and how one suffers such results in the form of distress, are a part of great chain. When one catches some disease, it is often very difficult to ascertain the cause of the disease. The practical injection to stop all the fructifications of the seeds of our sinful activities is simply engagements in Krishna consciousness. It is easy to take a treatment when our illness is in initial stages. However, if it becomes chronic, do you all agree it's very difficult to fix it then? Similarly, it is easy before we acquire any bad habit or sinful tendency. It is easy to say no in the beginning. But if we allow ourselves to say yes to it repeatedly, then to handle it becomes very difficult. Very difficult. It's not easy. It's a very, very severe battle at that point of time. And many don't survive. It takes a tremendous effort to be able to handle it. But to say no in the beginning is very easy. All right. So the practical solution is simply engage in Krishna consciousness. And that really works 100%. इतना engage करो कि जीवन में समय ना हो सोचने के लिए. Of course, you have maybe your household responsibility, professional responsibilities. But trust me, as much as services we can take upon ourselves, that's the best way to treat ourselves from our contaminated mind. But we read in Nectar of Devotion. What do we read? You will find when you read through Rupa's writing, a devotee should not expect immediate relief from the reactions of his past misdeeds. This is Prabhupada's writing. Huh? Once who take to the practice of Krishna consciousness is immediately freed. Yet Prabhupada writes, a devotee should not expect immediate relief from the reactions. A devotee who is not perfectly freed from the resultant actions should therefore continue to act in Krishna consciousness seriously, even though there may be so many impediments. Yet, Lord Krishna says, there are statements like as follows. Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshaishami suchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion. You know this verse very well. Surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Ma suchaha. Do not worry. Do not fear. Surrender to Krishna. Krishna will protect us. But yet, Srila Prabhupada has extended Krishna's statement in the Gita to the spiritual master, who is Krishna's representative, that if you surrender to the spiritual master at the time of initiation, you become free from all sinful reactions. So, are we actually free from all sinful reactions? First, immediately when we surrender, or do we gradually become free? That's the question. So, if you all remember in Upadeshamrita, how many of you remember, how many of you attended that there was a very important discussion, NOI Text 6, where I elaborately discussed on the subject matter of karma?
Yes, bro, I was there. It is immediately. You explained very well in that.
Can we just raise hand? माता कि प्रभु हर जगह रोशनी है सिर्फ आपको छोड़कर. क्या समझे भाई इसको? आप दुनिया में रोशनी फैलाना चाहते हो अपने आप को अंधकार में रखकर? Okay, no worries. So how many just quickly raise your hand here? How many of you attended that? Of course, all of you were attended. If you don't remember, please do go back to that. It's a very faith-giving subject matter. We discussed from Hari Bhakti Vilas there. So moving forward, how to reconcile? How to reconcile or how to understand? Are we immediately freed or it happens gradually? Srila Prabhupada has given some other hints which could help us resolve this question. He has said that when the devotee surrenders to Krishna, Krishna will take charge of the devotee's sinful reaction and use the devotee's sinful reaction for the best benefit of the devotee. Because Krishna says, Master, this is how Giriraj Swami or Giriraj Maharaj explains. Because in his mind a devotee may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last vestiges of enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishments that may sometimes resemble sinful reaction. Just like devotee falling sick. I mean, falling sick is nothing but it's just sinful reaction. So it may happen in the life of a devotee, and we discuss about it, how it happens in the session also. Although a devotee has a surrender to the Lord's devotion service, until he is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness, he may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness of this world. Remember we said Bhakti Devi takes charge of a devotee's life, and Bhakti Devi acts as a mother and Krishna acts as a father. So now a devotee, particularly initiated devotee, that discussion was for initiated devotee, particularly for an initiated devotee, now his life is under the hands of his Guru and the Lord. Now a devotee who is suffering is not to be considered because of his past sinful reactions. In that discussion we talked about any suffering that comes in the life of a devotee is primarily because of aparad, Vaishnava aparad, a reaction to Vaishnava aparad. Second understanding which we are discussing or presenting here is is where Krishna, just to keep us alert, knowing that we are yet not perfected in our Krishna consciousness, we still have desires to make us just to keep us on our toes, to keep us alert, not to fall victim to Maya. Krishna gives us some of the troubles in our life again and again so that we can take shelter of Krishna. Therefore, Brahmaji says, Tattenu kampam susamikshmano, loudly, Bhunjana evatmakritam vipakam, Hitavagvapabhividadan namaste, Jivetayo mukti pade sadhayabha. So, my dear Lord, one who constantly earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffers the reaction of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisance with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. If you look at the terms and condition of agreement which Krishna has with us in Bhagavad Gita is, you surrender. Sarva dharman parityajamam ekam sharanam vraja. Your part of agreement is you surrender. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshashami masucha. And I will deliver you from your sinful reaction. Now delivering us and protecting us from sinful reaction is whose job? Krishna. And Krishna is Swarat. He can choose to do in whatever way. Now we cannot say, because I surrendered, do it now. That cannot. And the Lord, being kind to a devotee, he sees, is he becoming complacent? Is he becoming careless? Or if just we fill his life with auspiciousness, no worries, no fear, no troubles, would he even chant? So there are little iota of issues keep coming in our life, so that we remember, and not only remember, we ultimately recognize Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. Because regardless of this place being hope against hope, yet we have so much hope. I can enjoy something I can do in this world. Life is not so bad after all. Just to make that hope completely hopeless, Lord keeps on giving us some or other challenges in our life. That's the point here. Therefore, even devotees experience the suffering. Lord Krishna explains the Bhagavad Gita that a devotee who fully surrenders. I've explained this point, that's okay. The last paragraph. The Lord therefore creates a particular situation to eradicate this remaining enjoying spirit. This unhappiness suffered by a sincere devotee is not a karmic reaction. And that is what we discussed that time. Prarabdha is gone. There's no prarabdha. So it is not karmic reaction. It is rather the Lord's special mercy for inducing his devotee to completely let go of the material world and eternal. When prarabdha is also destroyed, which means even the success that you get is the gift of the Lord. The challenges that you face is also the mercy of the Lord. So what is the viewpoint of the Lord devotee? Everything is nothing but mercy of the Lord. That is what Prabhupada is also explaining over here. Concluding with Lord's version here on the subject matter of why devotee suffers. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yasyaham anugrahanami Harsheta dhanam shanehe Tato vadhanam taijanti yasya Swajana dukkha dukkhitam. The personality of God had said, if I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive him of his wealth, then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him. And this way he suffers one distress after another. So, how should we deal when we are put into such situations? Whenever we are put under such reversals in our life, how would a devotee deal? He is internally cheerful. Generally, we become hopeless and depressed, but he doesn't lose his hope because he knows this is Krishna's mercy. Internally, he is cheerful. Externally, he tolerates. He doesn't become angry. And third, he does not quit on his responsibility or a duty. He continues to perform. That's how a devotee would handle crisis. An example is Arjuna. When he lost his son, he cried, but eventually he tolerated the loss. He performed his duty. Next day, he got up and he went to fight. Like that. Of course, that's an example of a pure devotee. They can act in different ways, but in general, this is the conduct. And classic example is Srila Prabhupada's life only. He felt so much crisis, so much challenges, but internally he remained sheltered, knowing that it is Krishna's will. Externally, he tolerated and stayed true to his duty. With that, we'll conclude the subject matter of Klesagni. I'll probably pause here for some question answers if somebody has, or maybe I'll give you a quick synopsis. I guess I should keep up to the time. Otherwise, हमारा sessions खत्म नहीं होंगे समय पे. I don't know. Should we? Okay, what do I do? Hare Krishna. Let's take some questions first of all. All right. Any questions or any comments on the subject matter? Yes, Mother Shivani, your hand is up, and then Vaikuntapati Prabhu. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Prabhu, I'm not very clear about Kutam and Bijam. It's like I'm getting a little confused.
Yeah. So Kutam refers to sinful, कहते हैं inclination. An example is maybe when a person for example, somebody have done some stealing habits in the past life, and as part of aprarabdha, two things happen. One is prarabdha, which you're going to receive as a punishment, and second thing is it leads to kutam, sinful inclination, which would be to cheat, to lie, to steal, and then when it becomes specific, that is called as bijam. Just like maybe stealing a phone, stealing a bike, something, then it becomes specific. And that bijam, that specific desire, pushes you to perform an action, which means papam. And that's how. And then you perform a papam, then again, there is a kutam. Your desire to cheat others or steal from others again becomes stronger. So, for example, somebody who steals, not that every time he's going to steal phone. His desire to steal different things changes. He may plan to steal something else. That's the idea. But general inclination to steal, that is called kutam. Bija means specific object, specific desire. That's the difference between kutam and bijam.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mother Chintamani?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes.
Prabhuji, I had a question rather on the definition of a pure devotional service, in which you also said about Draupadi, that she called out to the Lord, and that is pure devotional service. Now the question that is coming is, in what circumstances can we call out to the Lord for help? Because we are usually told not to ask for anything from the Lord. Now, as far as I remember, there was a conversation between Uddhav and the Lord regarding why the Pandavas had to suffer, and why didn't the Lord protect them? Because Yudhishthir went for that match and then got cheated, and then the Pandavas had to go to the forest for 12 years, and Draupadi had to be disrobed. I mean, Lord could have protected because they were his pure devotees. That time the Lord said, they did not approach me. Like, as far as I remember, Yudhishthir could have told that when Duryodhan said that Shakuni is going to play for me, Yudhishthir could have told that my cousin brother Krishna will play for him. Then he would not have been defeated. Even the 5 Pandavas, none of them looked up to me and asked for help. Even Draupadi was banking on the others to save her. Rather than me, she called me at the last moment. And that's the reason I did not respond. So for people like us, what is the, what would I say, that when do we approach the Lord for help, and when it is within pure devotional service?
So first aspect, as you mentioned while asking a question, we are told not to ask anything from the Lord. I don't know where it is mentioned like this or who says like this. In fact, the Shastric understanding is akama sarva kamava moksha kama dharidhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajate. Like that the verse goes on. And Prabhupada very categorically writes, whatever whatever. Just approach the Lord. And therefore, Acharya says, or therefore Srila Rupa Goswami gives, while giving a definition, he says, Anya Abhilashita. And there he says, the desire for self-preservation is also under the purview of pure devotional service. So if we need anything, we ask the Lord. That's totally fine. Now, Dhruva Maharaj taking to bhakti of the Lord was not from the point of view of pleasing the Lord, was from the point of view that he wanted his desire fulfilled. But a practicing devotee is in a difficulty. Whom should he go and ask for help, if not Lord? Whom should he pray, if not Lord? When Krishna himself saying, Sarvadharman Pratyaja, give up every hopes, you just surrender unto me. So as a devotee, we are supposed to approach the Lord. That's totally fine. Only Dhruva's case is not considered because he started bhakti, not to do anything with the Lord, just to ask a boon to fulfill his desire. And therefore it is not classified as pure devotional service like that. In case of this incident is a very interesting and significant incident of, despite the Lord being personally present, and Pandavas had to suffer so much. This discussion, I'm not sure about Krishna and Uddhava conversation, but it is between Bhishma, Pandavas and Krishna. Mahabharata speaks about, and the first canto also talks about. And when Pandavas reached, and that was the first thing which was asked to Bhishma Pitamaha. And then Bhishma Pitamaha said, there's a very classic verse, and he says, see, you're Pandavas, you're great devotees. There's no question of karma binding you. It cannot be because of karma. It is so astonishing. You all are Kunti Putra. You are yourself the son of the great Devatas. You all have to suffer so much. There's only one reason. One reason. Just give me 1 quick second. It's such a beautiful verse. I'd like to show you. Sarvam kala kritam manye bhavatam chayat apriyam sapalo yadvashe loko vayuriva ganavali. Bhishma Pitama speaking to Pandavas. In my opinion, this is all due to inevitable time, under whose control everyone in every planet is carried, just as the clouds are carried by the wind. Does Bhishma Pitama doesn't know who controls the time? What is he saying? What happened with you was nothing but the will of the Lord. And that is what we discuss. In the life of a devotee, the sufferings are not because of karmic reactions. It is because will of the Lord. And that is what he said by indicating Kala. And Bhishma himself declares Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He glorifies him, praises him like that. So it's the will of the Lord. And therefore, tatte nukampam samikshamano. The devotee, either in success or failure, sees that the will of the Lord, accepts it. He doesn't revolt against it. Just like the same thing happens when Devatas went to Brahmaji, seeing that how Kayadu holding a son, Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu in the womb, not Kayadu, I'm sorry, in the womb of Diti. Diti, Diti had not given birth, and she kept the two sons in a womb for 100 years, and because of being present there, they created such a crisis in the whole universe. So Devata got frightened and said, if just without being born, if they have created so much crisis, what will they do if they're born? And Brahmaji narrates the whole Jai Vijay pastime. And he concludes the pastime with saying that Jai and Vijay are coming to this world because Krishna wanted to experience Viryaras. It is the will of the Lord. My dear Devatas, what to say of you? Even I cannot change anything. As a very beautiful purport. And where Prabhupada says, therefore, we need to learn to accept the will of the Lord. We cannot revolt against it. And for that, tatte nukampam samikshmano is a conclusion of that subject matter. A practicing devotee knowing very well nothing happens without the will of the Lord, he accepts it with a heart full of gratitude. And he knows Krishna has a plan for me. He keeps moving forward. That's how we face it. That's how we deal with it. Thank you. All right, Mother?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
I think even in the case of Prathu Maharaj, when he was conducting the 100 horses yagya, when Lord came and he told that you being so advanced devotee,
Let it go.
let it go
Okay.
and consider it as the will of the Lord. And at that time also, I think Prabhupada in his purport, he quotes this same shloka that you should tolerate. And
It's a theme. It's a theme. Correct. Vaikuntpati Prabhu, please go ahead.
So, Prabhu, just wanted to add something to what you were saying. There are two points what I wanted to add. One is that, here we studied today that doing devotional service wipes out the sinful desires also in the heart, all these things, from the root, it uproots the bijam itself, all the sinful desires. But in the process of our devotional service, when we commit sinful actions, that also affects the devotional service.
Correct. Agreed.
So sometimes it becomes a vicious circle. You commit a sinful action, your devotional service suffers. And
Correct.
because your devotional service has weakened, the strength for the sinful actions becomes strong.
Correct.
So, I was just, when you were talking now, I was just thinking of that. Now, so what is the solution for this? We do not want to commit sinful actions, but it happens.
Correct.
It happens. So
it happens with
how do we-
everyone, and all of us go through the stages and different phases of devotional life. Now, this is
And
what
that's
it.
why-
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes on certain days when we chant our rounds, everybody has got this. Some days it's excellent chanting, some days it's lousy chanting, and somehow we have finished the 16 rounds. All these things happen. Some days people also miss out their rounds because of this, depending upon the sinful action that they are committing.
Correct.
In this context only, Prabhupada is talking in the first canto, first chapter itself, he's talking about it. Where he is telling that in Kali Yuga there are four very major, serious sinful activities which one has to avoid. And the first one is talking of developing an illicit relationship,
Correct.
developing an attraction for the opposite gender.
Correct. So, if I summarize your question, the point is, even a practicing devotee sometime is come to sinful action, and because of sinful action, his practice gets more difficult and becomes a vicious cycle. How do we come out of it? This is where it makes the difference between a sincere practitioner, a genuine practitioner, and I would say maybe somebody who was just after Artho Artharthi or Jigyasa kind of a thing. How would a sincere practitioner, if he comes to a mistake, anyone can come. I'm not recommending or take it lightly about, making mistakes. Now, what would be the consciousness of such an individual? Because of the mistakes that he might have committed starting from Vaishnava Prad or taking bad association, he has come to it. Now, when he wakes up, or let's say when he a little bit, let's say next year, whatnot, he would perform his devotional service with a double energy now. Why? Because he knows that he has made a mistake, and he would experience a great sense of humility within himself, knowing that I'm way away from becoming a perfected soul. And Lord, knowing very well that how arrogant and proud I was becoming, He has smashed me and humbled me again. But my dear Lord, whatever it is, I am not going to leave this bhakti. I am going to, with all my sincere attempts, practice. Ultimately, you are my protector. I will try again with my double intention and double strength. I'll practice. Such a devotee will take upon himself, all right, because I made a mistake, I'm going to fast for a whole day, or I'm going to chant 64 rounds, or I'm just not going to do this. He'll sit back and reflect on why I made a mistake and fix all those areas which could have potentially influenced him to make a mistake, and would take most sincere shelter of the Lord. Rather than saying, मैं क्या करूं, मेरी भक्ति नहीं चल रही, that person is itself not sincere. That's how the actions would happen between sincere and insincere practitioner.
Yes. So in one of the lectures I heard, I do not know whether it's a Prabhupada or whom, I don't remember now, where it was one of the Maharajas, I don't remember the name. He said that the best thing to do would be to sit before the Lord and confess. I did this. I didn't want to, but
Correct.
somehow I've done it.
Repentance.
Please help me to get out of it. Yeah,
Correct.
repentance.
Repentance, yes.
That's one.
Those are solution. Repent, speak to a senior. Again, this all is possible for a sincere soul. He will not make that as an excuse for his poor spiritual practice now. He would bounce back. He would feel a sense of humility, and of course, repentance is a part of a solution. I was not going to the solution part. I was just saying, how would he react in that way? Fine, Prabhuji? All right.
And I got two more questions.
Yes.
Sorry. So, now, in the conclusion, when you presented it, you were saying, that, doing the devotional service, papam gets cleared and the time. So you also mentioned about the timeline and 3 days or 3 janmas. What is it? It's hardly anything and all this. You said.
Oh, immediately. But the subject matter immediately, right? Yeah.
Yes, immediately that you said. Afterwards, but then again, later on, it again comes under shloka you presented, where you said that doing devotional service is a solution and it will be cleared. But then you also added a rider, Prabhupada's rider or somebody's rider, saying that don't expect results immediately. You put it like that. So for a practicing bhakta or someone who is getting into this thing, on one hand you are saying that I'll be relieved of all these problems, and immediately you are saying don't expect immediate results. So when am I supposed to expect the results?
I just 2 days ago asked a similar kind of a question to His Holiness Chinna Jiya Swami, right? I asked this question to him, and he immediately responded, that is not your duty. Do not try to do Krishna's job. It is Krishna's job to fix you immediately or afterwards. You do your job. And like that, he went on giving me an answer. And I said, okay. And I'll just pass on in parampara to you also. Next question. Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So what Chintamani Mataji said about that, you asked, where is it said that you should not ask for material business? So, that ahaituki apratihata, when it comes, So that ahaituki means niswar, without expecting any result. And in this case, praying to Krishna for a material solution. So that's where probably Mataji was referring to, we should not go to the Lord for material solutions. Possibly. Yeah, that is it.
Correct. Again, just to make a disclaimer again, one has to practice bhakti according to one's level. We cannot imitate someone else's level. If in case my need today is so and so, if I do not fulfill that need in my relationship with the Lord, then I'm going to go and latch onto somebody else. So therefore, Prabhupada said, be what you are, do not imitate advanced devotees. If we are in an advanced stage, there is no question of we asking the Lord, because we don't feel a need, and despite asking, we are happy with the Lord. So understanding where we are in devotional practice, therefore I told her when she said we are told not to approach the Lord for anything, I said, where it is said like that? Some things are said in context of pure devotee.
I'm not debating your answer.
Correct.
I'm not debating.
I'm just making a point there. Yeah, just was making a point. We should see in this proper light. Yeah.
So I'm not debating your point, because all the points what you answered, all those points stuck in my head also, and I wanted to also say the same thing actually. So you said that, but I just wanted to add one more point to what you said, with your permission. Mataji is something like this here. When we are in real material difficulties, who is a better person than Krishna to approach? For our solution. Who else is there? Ultimately, he is the final authority. So, even if there is a material problem, we can really go to Krishna and ask for a solution. What did Kunti Devi do? Kunti said, give me more trouble so that I can again and again approach you for solutions, so that you will come before it. So, sorry for this. क्या बोलेगा? छोटी मुंह बड़ी बात क्या है?
Thank you, Prabhuji. That was a helpful advice. Mother Radha, go ahead, please.
Thank you.
That was Mother Chintamani responding to Vaikunthapati Prabhu. Yes.
Prabhuji, one point is that suffering of the devotee, suffering in the devotee's life is due to the Vaishnava aprad. And at another point, it is like, um, Bhagwan says that if I specially favor someone, I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him. In this way, he suffers one distress after another. So, if we consider these 2 points, they are like, if I consider it, ki I have done my Vaishnava aparadh.
Okay, can I make a point?
Yeah.
For a devotee, he is not suffering karmic reactions. Non-devotee's life is governed by karma. For a devotee, it is not karmic reactions. If there is no karmic reaction, why am I getting success or why am I getting failure? That's the will of the Lord. All right. The will of the Lord is camera khatam ho gaya. So mera camera band ho gaya. That's all right. So that's will of the Lord. One thing is the Lord does it just to help us become more attentive. And second aspect is we might have committed Vaishnava aparadh. These are the two possible reasons only why we have suffering in our life. Either of it could be the reason. So today we discussed about will of the Lord. And our text 6 we discussed about Vaishnava aparadha. How it is suffering. So we presented both the ideas. That's the point. Yes, Mother, go ahead.
So that is what I was just thinking कि अगर कोई ये सोचे कि मैंने वैष्णव अपराध किया है तो वो गिल्ट रहेगा एंड रिपेंटेंस के वजह से प्रायश्चित करने के इसमें द पर्सन विल ग्रो स्पिरिचुअली देन थोड़ा एडवांस करेगा बिकॉज ही हैज डन अ वैष्णव अपराध व्हेन ही रियलाइजेस इट बट द सेकंड पॉइंट इज कि लॉर्ड हैज टेकन एंड in that thing it should not happen that the person become थोड़ा pride ना आ जाए kind of thing.
I am so great. Lord is personally giving suffering to me. Is that what you're saying? No.
So that means I'm getting closer. That is Lord. I'm getting closer to the Lord. So ये वाला feeling नहीं आना चाहिए.
I don't. No, man. That will be a very interesting case. Somebody feels like that, but that's not the idea. The idea in that way. Now for a case of a devotee, the verse Tattenu Kammam Susmikshamanu Bhunjani Vatma Kritam Vipakam. What he feels, what he knows that what I'm getting is my own suffering because of my own karmic reactions. He's not putting a blame on the Lord that Lord, you're giving suffering to me. But philosophically, the point as Bhishma Pitama tells Pandava, Sarvam Kala Kritam Manye. जो भी सब कुछ हुआ है काल के अनुसार हुआ है and who's Kalapati, that is Lord Krishna. So ultimately everything happens with the will of the Lord, and the Lord may give some traces of remaining karmic reactions to the devotee just to make him alert. So any such suffering ideally should make a devotee more and more humble. Anything else, it means he's on the wrong track. That's the point. Our reaction, our response should be, we should become more humble, we should take more shelter. That's how a devotee, and that's what Tatyanukama kind of shloka talks about it and teaches us what should be our response to such situations. We become more humble. We repent for the mistakes that we have done past and full reactions, or maybe we think about maybe my conduct towards other Vaishnavas is not nice, I should improve myself. Either way, it makes us a better person, a better Vaishnava. That's the point. All right, Mother?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Mother Anjana, then coming to Nikhil Prabhu, and then Mother Shivani to conclude with. Yes, Mother Anjana.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, I have a very simple question. It may look funny also, but I just please suggest that how should we go through this Nectar of Devotion book? Like, it is so vast. You are referring to Nectar of Instruction also, Bhagavad Gita also, Srimad Bhagavatam also. How should we go through this book?
Actually,
book of
very valid question. It's a valid question, and it's a little bit. It took me also good considerable time to really, study it. As I said, it's one of the most difficult subject matter because Srila Rupa Goswami presented very technically. And whatever he said, he gave references for it. Again, I'll repeat, the best way of studying NOD is, before you come to the lecture, read it. So at least you get some idea how to read it. I kind of gave you that little bit idea in the very first session of this NOD. Read a paragraph, write a title. So that you know, when you open a book, you have to revise, you know what has been discussed in this particular section. When we are discussing, make some nice notes. Because what happened, Nectar devotion is quotations after quotations after quotations. So you keep on, if you go verse by verse, it's just one reference, one reference, one reference. It's just like we're reading a research paper. Everyone does not have that kind of ability to comprehend such kind of subject matter. Not this, but I'm saying research subject. So then how do we present? And Prabhupada have given, he flows through his commentary or summary. But if we get an idea what subject matter is going on, then we can capture. And when there is quotations after quotations, just like how many times happens when you read translation, by the time you finish purport, you forget what was the translation about. Isn't it? Because translation is a very concise thing. Imagine if you're reading a couple of translations, how would you remember? So either you read and come back to the session, or else you hear it and go back and read, and the recordings are made available. Some of you might have to hear this recording twice and thrice just to grasp it. And therefore, we'll make this recording available. Just keep on hearing whenever you get time. थोड़ा थोड़ा सुन के समझ आना शुरू हो जाएगा. And then you will fall in love with this book. You will think, wow, there is nothing like Nectar Devotion. It's the best book.
Then, Prabhuji, there are shlokas also you are referring, like 1.1.11.
That is something just to help you just to help you understand what subject matter is going on.
But where are they given?
You don't have to worry about it.
Shlokas?
You don't have to worry about it. Okay. You understand the concepts and you go through the Prabhupada book, summary study. Important is to understand the concepts. So when you will see in the book talked about 6 characteristics of devotional service. Shloka is not mentioned, but at least you will remember, na? Freedom from suffering. And on top of it, presentations would be made available to all of you. As I said, by this weekend, last 2 lessons and this lesson, all the 3 PPTs will be uploaded on the portal. You can download the PPT, have a PPT, have a book, read it together, and you'll get it. But let me tell you, I have not gone through exactly how Prabhupada have written. I have created a particular flow to make it simpler. And Prabhupada have largely followed through verses. So some section could be addressed before and later. So like that. And Krishna will help you. All right? Don't be nervous about it.
Thank you.
Nikhil and Sonam, go ahead.
Actually, Bhagavad Gita and all that was, it was not simple to understand. But yes, flow was there, shlokas were there, then word meanings, then
there is summary study, na? Therefore it makes it difficult. Actually, I wanted to have verse-wise discussion, but it would be too long for this Bhakti Shastri. Otherwise, I would prefer to go verse by verse and then explain meaning. It makes it more simpler. But earlier I thought also to cover, but right now I'm just covering few verses. But आप लोग के लिए बहुत लंबा हो जाएगा. We need to complete in time also this Bhakti Shastri. Therefore, I'm just going through summary study. All right? Nikhil Prabhu, go ahead.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavats.
Yes.
Prabhu, you were quoting an example earlier in the session about a drowning person. I mean, then Srila Prabhupada was referring that as per Shastra Vichar, we should not be saving him, but Lok Vichar, he should be saved.
Drowning person.
So,
okay.
Yes. Who is in drowning, I mean, somewhere in ocean or river. So, really, I'm a bit confused because if we read Bhagavad Gita, so having, showing care or daya is a divine nature. I mean, Shastras also says that having, mercy to others.
Scripture doesn't say showing mercy is divine nature. Showing mercy according to time, place, circumstances, and to a qualified candidate. You read the 17th chapter when the subject matter of charity comes. Charity given in mode of goodness, a person considers the time, person considers the qualification of a receiver. Mode of charity given in passion is violation of all this thing. Charity is given only for one's name, fame, recognition. And mode of charity, again you can call it daya, done in ignorance is No consideration of time, no consideration of place, and no thought about is the person qualified also or not. So nowhere it is said in scripture, give daya to everyone. And if you want to give daya, there is a best way of giving, let's say a beggar, give him Krishna Prasad. Somebody is uneducated, give him Shastri Shiksha. There are ways of doing it, but they are qualified. They're given how to do it. Not generic, just do daya. Like that. Okay. Now coming from the point of drowning person's incident, from the Shastriya point of view, if you look at it, everyone who you call your mother, father, husband, daughter, child, whatnot, from Shastriya point of view, you are an individual living entity who is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are in this world trying to have many relationships, going through ups and downs in your life, is all because of your own past helpful reactions, which you are reaping in this life as prarabdha. You live in this body, which is also part of your prarabdha for a certain duration. You quit this body, take another birth, and then have other dozen of relationship defined by your prarabdha again. So in that way, when every living entity like me is going through their own karmic reactions, why do I want to unnecessarily entangle or obstruct what they're supposed to go through or face through in their life? Unless they give me the authority of it. Where do we have authority? Just like you have a relationship, you have parents, you have family members, you have your son, daughter, you have your wife. There is a relationship which is created according to Shastra Shraddha. You had a proper duly marriage, you have your parents, so you interfere in there. But just to go out and do things where you have no role and capacity, we are unnecessary in interfering in the actions of the Devtas. That's what it says. And it's not that we become so selfish and so hard-hearted by everything is happening because of, karmana deva netarana, let me live my life. I got nothing to do. No, it doesn't happen. The same people of Shastri Shraddha do the highest charitable act by trying to give spiritual knowledge to others. Free spiritual knowledge, free prasadam. So are we not showing there? We're showing there. So those who accept, they get benefited. Those who don't accept, you don't know who you're protecting. I'll conclude this example again. So for such question, this particular example is the best suited example. Imagine there is a flight and there are 4 passengers only in that small flight. And that flight is about to crash. And there is only one life jacket. And you have to make a decision who you protect. And in that flight, among the 4 people, one is a very important politician, maybe a chief minister or somebody, whatever. Second is an army general. Third is an engineer, IT worker, or a doctor. And the fourth is a lady with a young child in her lap. So, who would Nikhil like to protect among all the 4? Because you can't do everything. You're not Krishna. You can't protect all. You can only protect one. So, who do you think audience would like to protect? How many of you say politician? The open question for all of you here. Okay. How many of you say, what was the next one? Army general or some major, because he's protecting all of us at the border, he's valued. How many of you say maybe a doctor who treats various patients, maybe an IT fellow who makes our IT life more comfortable by creating gadgets? Or how many of you say the lady with a young child? What is your option? अरे यार इतने सेल्फिश हो, किसी के लिए हाथ नहीं उठाया? किसी को तो बचाओ, किसी के लिए तो हाथ उठाओ. So give me a direct hands. 1, 2, 3, 4.
For me, Prabhuji, I mean, if we go by the sentiments, then it's lady
just
with
give me straight
child
answer.
in her
Just
lap.
give me straight number. Don't go into details. What's your answer?
Lady.
Okay, how many of you
in her
agree will vote for the lady with a small child? Okay, looks like maximum vote goes over there. Fantastic. At least with your limited ability, you can save only one. You're not Krishna. So that's your level of capacity of daya. Imagine you save that lady, and next morning you get a report. So and so lady who was saved yesterday, she landed safely in Delhi. She boarded a cab and directly went to a presidential house, and she turned out to be a terrorist. She blasted herself with a child and killed 4 army men and many civilians. What was the value of your daya? No value. Your daya became a crime. Why interfere in karmic cycle? Why interfere when you don't know what is happening, how is it happening? I want to be compassionate. The best way of giving daya or compassion to others is by sharing Krishna consciousness. That's the only way. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Haribol.